New problems for Mercedes. So we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story is, the porpoising issue has returned to Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes yet again failed to finish on the podium at the Belgian GP. While a bad start from the pole position cost them Hungary, the limitations of the car hampered Hamilton's progress in Spa-Francorchamps. Lewis Hamilton and Toto Wolff made alarming comments about the Mercedes W14 showing similar characteristics to its predecessor. Over the Belgian GP weekend, the overhauled W14, even with the new upgrades at Spa, was plagued by bouncing issues. Given the track's layout, which includes long straights, the problem which haunted the team last year has made a return. Team boss Wolff went on to say that the car was bouncing on high-speed corners too, which could otherwise have been taken flat out. The car is just bouncing literally every straight. Even Blanchimont was a corner that Lewis had to lift, which is an easy flat normally, he said. Post-race, Lewis Hamilton echoed the same thought about returning issues. He made an alarming discretion that the team doesn't know the root cause of their returning woes. "I struggled at the beginning. Rear end is our biggest issue," the 7-time world champion told Sky Sports F1. "Then we had big bouncing this weekend. So we are back to the bouncing like we had last year. They, Mercedes, don't know what caused the bouncing, and to me it is a concern. But we will work through the data this week and try to figure out what we do before the next race. But I don't really have much more answers for you. I know what I want and I am praying for it. I am just waiting for the day that we get it." The Mercedes driver had a low-profile outing as Max Verstappen sailed past him, and Charles Leclerc kept him at bay to claim the final spot on the podium. Teammate George Russell could only manage a P6 result. Toto Wolff reassured that the team would scour through the data to find possible answers to resolve the bouncing issue. Starting P3 for the Belgian GP, Lewis Hamilton hoped for a podium finish, aiming to clear Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Instead, he dropped back a position as Max Verstappen came flying through to win the race by a huge margin. Even Leclerc was a distant target for the Mercedes driver. Making comparisons to the mighty RB19, Hamilton claimed the Silver Arrows were not even in the same race as the Red Bulls. "Yeah, started third but went backwards 1 place, but we expected Max to come flying by at some stage. Red Bull were 0.8 of a second faster than everybody today, per lap, so not really in the same race," he said post-race to F1. Despite being out of the Red Bulls league, Lewis Hamilton hailed Mercedes for the big strides made in the first half of the season. He is looking to come back stronger after the summer break. Mercedes must ramp up its game, according to Toto Wolff, after recent incidents between Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. In the Belgian Grand Prix sprint shootout, a timing miscommunication from the team meant both drivers got in each other's way, costing Hamilton a shot at sprint pole and leaving him 7th, having been on provisional pole after the first runs. It followed an incident in Spanish GP qualifying where the two actually hit on the main straight after another miscommunication, with Wolff feeling everyone at the team, including the drivers, must step up and eradicate such mistakes. "Between both of the drivers and the team, we just need to ramp up our game," Wolff told media, including Racing News 365, of the recent issues in Belgium. "In this situation, where it is about crossing the start-finish line in tough conditions, we have to just get some precision, and very quickly, you can look very good, very intelligent, or very bad. If Lewis and George didn't tangle in the way they did, Max Verstappen would have missed the final lap. Having said that, he is not the driver we should be focused on, but instead on ourselves. We had the time to give them both a proper launch. Lewis was on provisional pole and then ended up 7th. All of us together know that it shouldn't be happening. When you see that he was leading the pack before that last lap, it is clearly a problem for all of us. It is not that Lewis has missed out on pole or the front row, but the team has missed out on it, and all of us together. It's really a constant development and learning process, and with the badness that happened, we discussed afterwards, and we've made a step in correcting that. But we've tripped up a few times and now need to make sure we up our game." The second story is, why Mercedes F1 sidepod changes are still only a makeshift solution. The centerpiece to those changes was made to its sidepods, and builds on the conceptual shift taken at the Monaco Grand Prix, when it opted to abandon the zero-pod concept used since the start of the current ground effect era. Mercedes had switched to a wider, downwash ramp-style solution in a similar vein to its rivals, but it appears it cannot go as aggressive with the bodywork shaping as it would like, so only really has a makeshift solution. That is because the team has to be sympathetic to the position of its upper SIS, side impact structure, and the fairing that envelops it. Mercedes is unable to alter this area of the car, as it would require a new chassis to be homologated, which is something that's unattainable during the course of the season due to the cost cap. While dramatic changes to the SIS fairing might be off the table, Mercedes has made changes to the aerodynamic furniture housed around it, with the mirror slat from above the housing removed in Spain, above, blue arrow, inset, while the row of vortex generators mounted on the upper corner of the fairing, above, red arrow, inset, were reduced from 4 to 3 in Canada and have been deleted entirely as part of this update. Like Red Bull, which made changes to its side pods in Hungary, Mercedes listed the taller side pod inlet being used this weekend as a reliability update, rather than being purely aerodynamic. This suggests there's work that has been undertaken to the internal ducting, as well as the external bodywork. The shape of the inlet has also changed, with a more cylindrical scoop favored when compared with the boxy layout used since its update in Monaco. This clearly has implications in regard to its cooling capacity, and it also results in a revised undercut layout in order to deliver a better flow regime downstream. There's changes at the rear of the side pod bodywork to take advantage of this too, with much more concavity down the flank of the ramped section to help push flow laterally around the rear tire. The ramp section is also more abrupt than before, with the bodywork dropping down to meet with the floor, and better engage the flow across and through the gully-like upper surface of the side pod. And as a means to work in conjunction with the changes to the rear portion of the side pod, the camber of the engine cover has also been modified. On the topic of updates working in unison, there's also been some changes made to the W14's floor, with Mercedes noting in its car presentation document that it has altered the volume distribution of the underfloor. This, according to the team, should help to extract more local load from the forward floor vortex system, which in turn improves flow to the diffuser. This is characterized externally by the reduction in strakes on the scroll section of the floor in the forward corner, with their number reduced from 3, above, inset, to 2. The new, lower downforce rear wing that Mercedes had at its disposal in Belgium only made it onto Lewis Hamilton's car. However, based on the speed trap figures during both qualifying sessions, the sprint and the race, there wasn't a great deal of difference between it and the higher downforce solution used by George Russell. This could be because the barn door solution used by Russell offered more balance and a better corner exit. Nonetheless, as you can see, the new wing takes up much less of the available box region for the mainplane and upper flap, with a much shallower spoon-shaped mainplane, and the trailing edge of the upper flap is cut back too. Notably, the conjoined single-mounting pillar and DRS pod also have a different makeup, and a rear quarter cutout can be found on the newer rear wing end plate, whereas the infill panel was used on Russell's car. Ferrari also had a new rear wing assembly for the Belgian Grand Prix, as it looked to improve its top speed without compromising its performance through the trickier second sector. The third story is Hamilton's future contract with Mercedes is heating up. The 7-time world champion is currently waiting for his lawyers and Mercedes representatives to clarify the final elements of a new deal that will commit him to F1 for the next few years. Delays in getting the contract across the line have triggered speculation that there are aspects of the deal that have not been easy to resolve. One issue that has cropped up recently is the suggestion about Hamilton wanting to finalize some kind of ambassadorial role with Mercedes for his life after retirement. But speaking at the Belgian Grand Prix, Wolff has said that the focus of the new contract is entirely related to Hamilton being a driver. We're not talking about an ambassadorial role post his retirement, nor is that part of the contract negotiations, explained Wolff. I think he has many years to go as a driver within this team, and therefore it's only about cleaning things up in the contract. I know it looks a little bit uncertain, and this not being done and dusted, but it's simply down to trivial things that just need to be cleaned up in contracts. Wolff and Hamilton have explained in recent weeks that there are no major hurdles to the deal being completed, and it is now just a matter of sorting out the legal aspects. Speaking at the Hungarian GP, Hamilton said that progress on getting the contract signed was now totally out of his hands. I've not been a part of it the whole time, he said. "I've been removed from it from the beginning. I wanted to be as focused on all the other things that I have going on, so the team is working on it in the background. There is no negotiation left. It is all just small bits." Wolff himself has backed up that viewpoint by saying that the involvement of lawyers at this stage meant it was impossible to state when things would be completed by. "I don't want to give you a date because it's lawyers speaking to lawyers," he said. "It's not material things anymore, but you've got to give it time, and I don't want to commit to a date." Mercedes have explained why Lewis Hamilton and George Russell ended up tripping over each other during sprint qualifying at the F1 Belgian Grand Prix. Russell ended up getting in Hamilton's way and hindering both Mercedes drivers' laps after locking his tires into Turn 1 during the final flying laps on a drying Spa-Francorchamps in Saturday's sprint shootout. Hamilton eventually passed Russell on the Kemmel Straight, but his lap was already ruined after he was forced to back out of the throttle through Eau Rouge. The incident left Hamilton only 7th on the grid for the sprint, while Russell was down in 10th. In order to explain that, I think I first need to explain how difficult it is to get right in the first place, said Chief Technical Officer Mike Elliott. When you've got a track that is drying, it is nearly always the case the quickest lap is going to be the very last lap of the run. And so your first laps are about getting a banker lap in, and then as you get to the end of the session, you want to be at the right place, so you are just about crossing the line at the end of the session with your tires in the right window. So we are pretty much heading towards that, but what we could see was in the last corners. So in 18 and 19, where you get to open the lap, there was a lot of queuing, a lot of cars there. And so we were worried about getting over the line before the session ended.